Hey everybody, Critic here, and I know I said that my next video would be the BoJack Horseman review, but since Halloween is upon us, I wanted to cover something spooky to celebrate it. At first, I struggled to find something to make a video about, but then I watched the trailer that HBO released for their upcoming animated series Velma, and hoo boy do I have some cross things to say about it. Before I get started, however, let me explain what Velma is for those of you who haven't heard about it yet.
Velma is the latest installment of the Scooby Doo franchise. For those who don't know what Scooby Doo is, please go back under the rock you crawled out from and stop bugging me.
Nah, I'm just kidding. Here's my summary.
Scooby Doo is a long-running animated media franchise that began all the way back in 1969 with the release of its debut cartoon, Scooby Doo, Where Are You? The show followed a group of 5 intrepid mystery solvers named Daphne, Fred, Shaggy, Velma, and their dog Scooby as they, solve mysteries. The foes they face are initially presented as some sort of supernatural force terrorizing a local town or establishment, like a ghost or a monster. Over the course of each episode, however, the gang finds out that said supernatural force was really just a person in a mask concocting some convoluted scheme for power, or money, or whatever it is that people pretend to be monsters for. Although the show only lasted for 2 seasons, it became extremely popular and was followed by multiple shows and movies that introduced new characters and concepts to the franchise. This was thanks in part to its main cast having easily identifiable and, dare I say, iconic personalities. Fred was the charismatic jock, Shaggy and Scooby were the laid-back slackers, Velma was the no-nonsense brainiac, and Daphne was, the hot one.
Alright, I know I'm gonna catch some flack from Scooby-Doo fans for saying that, but again, I don't watch Scooby-Doo, and I barely remember anything about Daphne from what little of it I have watched, so you'll forgive me if I don't know what her character's archetype is.
Anyways, Velma, and I mean the show, not the character, was first announced back in February of 2021, and languished in development hell for the next year and a half before HBO finally released a trailer for it this October. The show, as its name suggests, puts Velma in the title role, and was developed for television by comedic writer Charlie Grandy. Portraying Velma herself is none other than Mindy Kaling of The Office fame, who also serves as an executive producer on the series.
Now that I've caught you guys up, it's time for us to take a look at the trailer and see exactly why it's so awful.
The trailer begins with an outside shot of Velma's house, where we catch a glimpse of a menacing figure with a knife. As the mysterious intruder keys Velma's mailbox, Velma herself is...
Dear HBO Max,
They're not.
I just learned you intend to make a genre-bending comedic origin story of Judy Jetson. When I heard this new version of Judy Jetson wouldn't be boy crazy, the only word I had to describe my disgust is jinkies.
They're really not.
If there is one thing the internet agrees on, it's that you should never change anything ever. I hope you die. Sincerely, Velma. Well, at least Judy's still white.
Oh boy, where do I even begin?
First of all, Velma doesn't exactly strike me as the type of person who would send a death threat to the producers of a show for changing aspects of a fictional character she likes. Isn't she supposed to be the most grounded member of the Scooby Gang? I don't know, maybe she's always been this much of an obsessive loser and I just need to watch more Scooby Doo, but the way she's being portrayed here just feels off to me. Also, get a load of the awful humor on display here. Serial killer on the loose. Loves killing girls, obviously.
I'd say this is the kind of joke that only 5-year-olds would laugh at, but that'd be disrespectful to 5-year-olds. Second of all, I can't believe they're seriously opening their trailer with the most overused joke that modern writers make about fans who take issue with race or sexuality swapping. Anyone who criticizes our decision to force diversity into our show is just a racist, sexist bigot. This exact same point has been made time and time again in countless other woke movies and TV shows. Can't you guys come up with any original material?
Third of all, haven't these writers learned from the disaster piece that was 2016's all-female Ghostbusters reboot? The last thing you ever want to do when advertising your product is to insult your customers by generalizing them as irrational hate mongers who are averse to any change whatsoever. That is economic suicide.
Fourth of all, I hate how the writers think they're being so clever here. Isn't it so meta how Velma is relieved that her favorite fictional character is still white, even though she is now South Asian? Aren't we like the best satirists evers? With that said, I believe it's time to talk about what's by far the most controversial aspect of this show, the race swapping.
If you didn't already know, 3 of the 4 members of the Mystery Gang have had their races altered for this show. Daphne is now Asian, Shaggy is now black, and Velma is now South Asian. If you want to know how I feel about this, I'll keep it simple. Race swapping is gay and it needs to stop happening. Seriously, I am getting beyond sick and tired of writers and producers throughout the entertainment industry altering fundamental aspects of established characters just to fill some stupid diversity quota. If you want South Asian representation in media, well, first of all, there's already plenty of it out there. There's Apu from The Simpsons, although he got removed from the show because he was apparently an offensive stereotype of Indians, but that's a rant for another time. Connie from Steven Universe, the Super Nuisanphones from King of the Hill, Molly McGee's family from The Ghost and Molly McGee, and those are just the first couple of examples that sprung to my mind from the world of animation. We're not exactly being starved of South Asian representation. Second of all, make your own damn characters. Stop taking characters that other people created and altering them to fill whatever diversity void you're complaining about. Especially if you're not going to change anything about the character's personality or background. That's not only incredibly lazy, but it's also pretty offensive, since you're signaling to the rest of society that original minority characters can't achieve any success on their own, so they have to piggyback on the success of other characters in the form of racial reskins. Let's just take Spider-Man and make him black. Let's just take Ariel and make her black. Let's just take Annabeth and make her black. Let's just take The Question and make him Latina.
I'm still not forgiving you for that one, DC.
Let's just take Velma and make her South Asian. For the love of God, does nobody in Hollywood see how stupid this is getting?
Last but not least, so many of these stories with race-swapped characters are less about the characters themselves going through a meaningful story arc that pays respect to the original source material, and are more about the writers just beating us over the head with whatever social justice issue they want to whine about. If you want a pretty good example of what I'm talking about, just go watch the show Batwoman.
You want to know why I haven't paid my fines? Because I can't find a job. Because I don't have a home, because no landlord wants to rent to an ex-con on post-release. No one cares that the dope wasn't mine, or that the crows were dirty, or that I'm actually a decent human.
Do you think you're worthy of wearing it?
Because I'm a number. I am the 327th baby of a black woman who died during childbirth.
A common defense you hear when you bring all of this up is that people need good role models to look up to when they're growing up, and they won't be able to latch onto the role models provided to them by fictional works unless the characters in those works look exactly like them. A sentiment that's often summarized by the oft-repeated mantra, representation matters. However, I find that mindset incredibly fucking weird. If you can't view a fictional character as a role model or relate to them and the struggles they go through unless they share your exact same skin color, sexuality, or cultural upbringing, then I think that says more about you than it does about society in general. At the end of the day, we are all human beings, and our common humanity should be all that's required to relate or look up to a character. How does that one line in that one Tom McDonald song go?
Ivory or ebony, 45 or 17, we all bleed the same, Martin Luther King or Kennedy.
Yeah, pretty much. For example, one of my favorite characters of all time is Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. Now, me and Peter share very little in common on the surface. He's a white kid from Queens, while I'm a Hispanic kid from San Antonio. He's a science whiz whose parents died when he was young and thus lives with his aunt and uncle, while I'm a comic book and cartoon fanatic who grew up with both parents being present in my life. Logically speaking, there should be nothing for me to latch onto with this character. But do you want to know why I do relate to Peter? It's because he went through a lot of the same shit that I went through as a kid. He gets bullied because of his hobbies, he barely has any friends because his social skills are complete garbage, and he constantly has to worry about the health and well-being of his closest relatives. I relate to Peter as a character because, to quote Jonathan Ross, before he got bitten by a radioactive spider, I was him. He could have been black, or Asian, or Hispanic, or fucking polka dotted, and I still would have related to him. It also helped that Peter's transformation into a crime fighter sent him through a meaningful story arc that taught me an important life lesson. When Uncle Ben gets shot as an indirect result of him failing to stop a criminal when he could have, Peter, who up to that point had been using his powers to earn fame and fortune as an actor, learns that his great powers come with some equally great responsibility, and he vows to use them for the good of others so that nobody will ever have to lose a loved one like he did. How can you not look up to a person like that? Only Squickwards can't relate to a character or view them as a positive role model unless they look and act exactly like them. And remember, nobody wants to be a Squickward.
And keep in mind, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have minority characters that serve as good role models. Some of my favorite superheroes are themselves minorities. What I'm saying is that those characters should be original creations.
And if you still hold to the representation matters mantra, then let me ask you one question. Would you be okay if Marvel decided to do a what-if comic book where the Black Panther or Luke Cage or any other famous Black Marvel superhero was made white? I can tell you right now that most people wouldn't be okay with that. And I have some evidence to back that assertion up. Remember when people complained that Scarlett Johansson was cast to play Major in the 2017 live-action American remake of Ghost in the Shell? Or when people complained about M. Night Shyamalan casting white actors to play Sokka and Katara in his live-action adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender? Hell, why is it that I can find list upon list and video upon video complaining about whitewashing? If it isn't okay for traditionally minority characters to be made white, then it shouldn't be okay for white characters to be made minorities. To argue against that would be insanely hypocritical.
To make a long point short, thanks to the race swapping, I now have less than zero interest in watching this show. However, I consider myself a fair person, so why don't we finish watching this trailer to see if there's anything positive we can glean from it.
Unknown caller. Spooky. Hello? Velma Dinkley speaking.
How in the hell did Velma answer that call when there was clearly no button for her to press on the fucking screen?
Hello, Velma. Do you like solving mysteries?
Yeah, but I'm actually much more three-dimensional than that.
If you have to say you're a three-dimensional character, chances are you're not.
Who is this?
That's the mystery, and solve it quick, because I'm in your house.
Also, you should really think about hiring an interior decorator. Your drapes do not match your carpet at all.
A serial killer calling from inside my house? Yes, that's a classic, and that's my point. Why change anything when the classics all still work, right?
Velma, sweetie, your life is currently in danger, so could you try and take things just a little more seriously? Her reaction would be pretty understandable if she thought this was a prank call, but that's clearly not what's happening here, so knock it off, moron.
And again, the writers are still not as clever as they think they are, because in order for a joke like this to work, they'd need to change a lot more about Velma than just her race. She'd need to act different, look different, and sound different. Then their commentary on race swapping would actually make some kind of sense. By keeping everything else about Velma the same, they're just proving that the only reason they changed her race was for the sake of diversity, rather than because they had an interesting story to tell with that change.
And that's pretty sad.
Wait, you're inside my house!
Wait a minute, she gets killed? But then what the hell is this series going to be about? Solving the mystery behind her murder? Good God, I'm so confused.
And just like that, the trailer is over. That's it. That's all they show us.
This is, unironically, the worst trailer for a TV show or movie that I have seen since the one for High Guardian Spice. Where do I even begin with my criticisms?
First things first, the jokes in this trailer are unfunny and worn out. For a show that's billed as an adult romantic comedy / mystery series, you'd think the writers would want to pack their trailer with jokes that are guaranteed to get a laugh out of the audience. But they instead decided that it'd be a good idea to spend an entire half of it taking the piss out of fans who criticized their decision to change Velma's race. When the only people who would laugh at your jokes are the ones that your show isn't trying to target, your product is doomed to fail. This is the primary reason why the comedy movie Bros flopped at the box office. The jokes in that movie are only funny to people within the LGBT community, and its themes only resonate with gay people, despite the film wanting to appeal to a wider audience. Hence why it was marketed so aggressively by Universal, and why the star of it went on a pathetic rant about how straight people were, quote, homophobic weirdos for not lining up in droves to see it.
The second problem with this trailer is that it teaches us nothing about the show's premise or any of its characters.
Actually, I take that back. We are introduced to a mysterious serial killer who preys on women, and we do get to see a glimmer of this Velma's personality. It's just that A, we don't know whether the show is going to be about Velma attempting to track the serial killer down, or about the rest of the mystery gang trying to solve her murder. And B, what little we are given about Velma's character renders her completely unlikable. The only things she does are tell the producers of a show that she hopes they die for making changes to its main character that she doesn't like, and make obnoxious meta jokes about how things don't need to be fixed if they aren't broken. How is anyone supposed to feel excited to follow whatever journey she goes on when she doesn't seem the least bit appealing as a protagonist?
Perhaps the biggest issue with this trailer, however, is how it insults fans of Scooby Doo by portraying them as complete scumbags merely for criticizing the changes the writers made not only to Velma, but to the rest of the cast. I'm sorry, writers, but this is not the OOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO was already pretty low, and now you're going to further alienate that audience by insulting them? I'm totally sure that that's not gonna backfire on you at all.
Country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, mountain mamacita, take me home, country roads.
I I'd be very surprised if this show doesn't become a complete ratings dumpster fire. Because if its writers have this little respect for their audience's intelligence, then I'm certainly not gonna watch it, and I don't think anyone else should either. But Alex, you can't just write off an entire show because of a bad trailer. That's unfair. No, it's not, and I'm tired of people fucking saying that.
The entire point of trailers are to convince people to spend money on whatever product is being advertised. That's why companies pump millions of dollars into marketing, because selling a product requires a little more than just stocking it on the shelves and hoping that somebody picks it up. If the trailer for your show or movie sucks, then don't get upset when people line up in droves to not see it. It is not my responsibility or the responsibility of anyone to give my hard-earned money away to whatever show or movie is being advertised to me, especially when said advertisement spends half of its runtime insulting me for criticizing the creative decisions that were made in the making of it. If a company wants me to watch their new show, then the trailer for that show better be enticing, or else I'm gonna tell them to go to hell. And for anyone who wants to argue that trailers aren't indicative of a show or movie's final product, I again point you to Ghostbusters 2016. The trailer for that film sucked, and the film itself turned out to be even worse. So if this is the stuff that the writers of Velma packed into their trailer, chances are that the show is going to be just as bad as what we saw, if not worse. And because of that, I can't in good conscience lend it my support.
If you guys want your Scooby Doo fix, then go watch, I don't know, something other than this. I heard Mystery Incorporated was pretty good. I'm Alex the Critic, and I'll see you guys next time. Oh, and happy Halloween.